Well, it starts at the beginning, and the beginning is what got me into this crazy, mixed up world of special effects, movie making, Hollywood in general. And where that all started? Well, I guess it goes as far back as being at my grandmother's house in Marin County, and she says, "There's a movie coming on tonight." She thought it was the best movie ever made. It was called The Day the Earth Stood Still. I watched that film and it captivated me. Flash forward some years later, I'm always watching sci-fi and horror films, like many of you watching this probably did. And it was just in your blood. You just loved it. So, like I said, flash forward, we get up to about high school, and Star Trek comes out. Star Trek captivated me because up to that point, most of the science fiction was fantasy based, and I tend to like stuff that was about our own future, possibility of us getting into space ourselves. And this was all about that, and I loved it. This is the future for us. We're going to have starships, we're going to visit other worlds and all that. And I got really fascinated by that, and I wanted to create things from it. They didn't sell tunics, and they didn't sell props, and how did they do Spock's ears, and all those things. And I got this book in high school called The Making of Star Trek. And I looked at the props and everything in there, and I said, those are incredible. Well, along comes AMT, and they come out with their kit that had the tricorder in it, the phaser, and the communicator. And I remember getting them, not to mention the model of the AMT model of the Enterprise, and getting all of those and bringing them home and saying, what's this? This doesn't look like, who, are they joking? I mean, they must think I'm dumb because, oh, he'll like it, it looks like it. No, it doesn't look like it, it looks sort of like it. The props are too small, the Enterprise was all wrong, and I knew all this. So this got me wanting to make my own things. And I started figuring out how they did Spock's ears and stuff like that. So that got me into making my own props and making my own things. And that was a gateway to my career. Then another couple of years goes by, and a friend of mine comes home and calls me. He had just seen a movie called 2001: A Space Odyssey. He said, "You've got to see this. This is so far beyond Star Trek. You're just going to love it." So I did. I got in a Greyhound bus. I took it into San Francisco. I went to the Golden Gate San Francisco Cinerama, and I saw 2001 for the first time, and the second time, and the third time. And then I went home, and that was it. I was fascinated by Kubrick, filmmaking, all of it. I wanted to be involved. I went back and saw 2001 probably 60 times. I couldn't get enough of that movie. I started buying my own equipment. I started making my own short films in 8mm. And I even got a Soundstripe Fairchild camera and started doing short films in high school with sound. I was totally into it and making my own props. And of course, somewhere in there was Planet of the Apes. And that led to my interest in makeup because I wanted to recreate what they had done. To make the story a little shorter, we get to the American Zoetrope. I got out of high school. I saw an article in the San Francisco Chronicle. It featured a guy named Francis Ford Coppola and George Lucas. And George Lucas was making a feature version of his thesis film he did in college called THX 1138 4EB, name of his classroom. And I saw this on KQED in black and white, and it just fascinated me, and I wanted to know more about a full-length movie version being done. In the article it says, we're here to help young filmmakers. So I took them quite seriously, and I called them up, and I said, I'm a young filmmaker, and I'm just getting out of high school, and I've made all these short films, and I've even got a 16mm camera now. And they invited me down, and I made friends with Coppola, and I started being an intern there. Somewhere in there, I started doing Planet of the Apes makeups locally. I went to his local science fiction convention at the the St. Francis Hotel, I think it was. And I met some people there and said I needed to come to Hollywood. They loved what I had done because I had learned on my own how to sculpt the prosthetics and make them out of foam rubber and make myself up. and they were quite taken by it. And this one friend of mine named Ricky Schwartz said, "Hey, I know John Chambers, the guy that did the makeup for the Planet of the Apes," which just blew my mind. I was like, wow. And he had some of the original appliances with him, which I later learned, well, we'll talk about that in the next episode. But and I did. I came down to Hollywood. So, but I'm going to cut it off there because I'm keeping these short. You know the short story. You know how I learned about this industry and got excited by it. Met Francis Ford Coppola, and we're going to talk a little bit about the American Zoetrope and some of the things I did there and my exodus to Hollywood on the next episode. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it.